How do you like to watch movies? I used to feel a certain type of way when people tell me that they are in the process of watching a movie. See, the thing about film is that it is a medium of art with a unique expectation from the viewer. That it's all seen at once, often on a huge screen with booming speakers in a dark room, and at times with very large fanboy crowds to get the entire experience. For now, and for the purposes of this video, let's just focus on the at once aspect, especially in the current world where so many different mediums and forms of consuming media can be jumbled in with each other. It can get hard to be so disciplined. I've definitely noticed myself getting more and more distracted over the past couple of years. Now, luckily, we still have filmmakers who are making their projects with artistic intent and without these adjustments in mind, and a lot of the greatest pieces within any medium of art you can experience requires us to drop a lot of the habits we have picked up as the internet age evolves to fully immerse into. So with our attention spans as short as ever, I do wonder if, where, and when the disconnect might fully catch up to us. And sure, this video can very easily turn into a lot of me complaining and psychoanalyzing film watching in the current media age, which I do want to dive into at some point. But for now, I'm going to be a bit more simple and self-reflective. I'm going to see how disciplined I myself am by not just seeing if I can watch a movie without distraction, not two, not even three, but 7 films in one day. So last night, kind of realizing I don't feel like leaving the crib today, I also decided, why not watch as many movies as I can today? In the past, I think the max I ever reached probably in high school during COVID times, but somewhere between 3 and 4 movies all in one day. Today, I'm gonna try and watch maybe 6, 7, if possible 8 movies all today, give you guys a couple reviews, and really lock back in on my movie watching habits that I've kind of lost out on over the past, couple of months when I've had a bit of a busier schedule. So without too much more rambling on, let's go ahead and let me figure out what movies I'm gonna watch today. Okay, after a lot of research, kind of going back and forth between Letterboxd, my watch list, the Criterion challenge that I'm trying to do, looking at some of the movies I already had loaded up to watch, and just looking at what movies are available on platforms, while also trying to mix in as many genres and styles that I can, as many different types of lengths of movies anywhere between 90 minutes, and there's a movie that's over 3 hours long on my list. Quality itself, I didn't want to just straight up watch bangers or straight up watch mid movies or whatever. I wanted to go back and forth, kind of see different levels of supposed quality. Since I have loved movies in many different forms and fashions, I might as well try movies that are both controversial and universally loved. And I wanted to sprinkle in older plus newer movies, or just movies from the 60s, 70s, different eras overall. Let's get into my first watch, Amelie. Amelie has been on my watch list for a long time, and finally getting around to it is satisfying actually, and really encourages me when it comes to the rest of this project. As a film, it is a good vibe to start off with too. It's a piece with so much optimism and charm that constantly reminded me of why I love the medium of cinema and the endless possibilities that it presents. Knowing myself, if this movie was bad, I would have been too discouraged to go on with the rest of the challenge, and probably vice versa. If off rip this was clear in a way the best film I would watch today, all suspense would have been lost. Luckily, it was just pretty good, which is the perfect way to start. This is really jam-packed with jokes, both visual and oral. Amelie is so dense comedically, visually, and emotionally, and while I do think there are some great narrative elements here, the plot and interconnectivity here was definitely the weakest point. The focus on the minutiae of life as we follow the whimsically weird protagonist go through this beautifully stylized, fairy tale-esque world is masterful in my opinion. The color palette is so clean and complementary to the overall vibe of Amelie as a character, and while yes, I did enjoy this really weird movie about a pretty weird human being, this movie is still not a masterpiece in my eyes, even though there are many masterful elements. I personally enjoyed the romance aspect, but wasn't swept up in the main relationship at any point. I actually cared more for Georgette's little fling than the main characters is. The stories all work relatively well in tandem, but there is just too much superficially happening for my taste at times. Quality and genre wise, this is the perfect start, right at an 8 out of 10 for me. The couple points lost are very subjective. Truthfully, I can see why certain people would have this on their Letterboxd 4, and I truly am looking forward to the rest of the movies and had a great time with this one. Not much more to say here. Following are the notes that I wrote once I completed 2046. Keyword completed, because I was so wrapped up in the movie that I couldn't write any notes during the film. One, that was genuinely just straight pain for two plus hours. 2, the sci-fi elements are so perfectly intertwined. 3, there are top tier scenes all around here. No part of this film felt unnecessary and nothing felt missing. In the simplest terms, perfect pacing. 4, really no notes for improvement, truthfully. 5, Wong Kar-wai's run from the late 80s to the early 2000s has to be studied, and I might just have to be the one to do the studying. Chungking to In the Mood to 2046 alone are a trilogy of films that not many directors aside from the Scorsese's, Kubrick's, Coppola's, and Hitchcock's of the world can even compete with. 6, such a distinct vision and style that is perfectly executed visually, narratively, and emotionally here. 7, interestingly, and I say that since Wong is clearly much more focused on style and vibes than the narrative elements of his projects, but this here is truly a dense, thought-provoking, and cohesive narrative. So much intertextuality between 2046 and the rest of his projects. This is truly his magnum opus in my books. Maybe not his best, but truly the culmination of everything up until this point. And finally, this is one of those that's so deep and important that watching it in the middle of a challenge like this is actually so weird, because now I have to switch over to Shrek 2.
Ah! Are we there yet?
Yes.
Shrek 2 has been a 10 out of 10 movie for me since I was, 5 years old, and it will remain as such for the rest of my life. A brisk 90 minutes with a fun story, some underrated animation, and at least 100 of the best not for kids jokes, you know what, and kids for kids jokes ever put on the big screen. On every ounce of my being, if I ever denounce this movie, just start to question not just everything that I stand for, but just reality itself. We might just be in the Matrix if that were to happen. Challenge-wise, a well-needed comfort watch before Fanny and Alexander. Standing at a hefty 3 hours and 10 minutes felt like one of the longest movies I've seen in my life. And not just because of that 3 hour and 10 minutes, I've seen longer movies. The thing about this challenge is that I am being forced to jump from world to world and vibe to vibe so often. It's not like I'm watching 4 movies in the same franchise right now. I just went from a feel-good French movie to a heartbreaking sci-fi romance to Shrek 2, and now I'm watching a 3 hour 10 minute long film that is essentially just vignettes in the life of a Swedish family. I truly can't critique this film much because of the context in which I watched it, but general thoughts wise, the scale of this story is awe-inspiring and truly unique. I can't say I've ever seen a film like Fanny and Alexander before, and I'm not sure if I ever will. This is a very atypical project, and with movies that act as vignettes or slices of life, I need a couple viewings to hash out my own thoughts. Sometimes there comes movies like Cuarón's Roma that act in much the same way as Fanny and Alexander, that have scenes towards the end or the final third of the film that nail home why you've been watching these vignettes, or just give some sort of thesis overall, but I couldn't really pinpoint those scenes here. Everything kind of just jumbled in together. As of right now, this is somewhere between a 6 and a 9 out of 10 with no idea which way I truly feel. This is either entertaining rubbish or an actual masterpiece. For now, I'll comment on my decision to watch the 3 hour cut of the film rather than the 5 hour cut, which is presented as a television series. 1, I just didn't want to watch this movie for 5 straight hours, especially in the middle of this challenge. And 2, I actually think my viewing of Fanny and Alexander this time around hooked me enough to the family dynamic and the slight absurdism of the world, and I do plan on watching this series sometime this winter. Not all at once, but like as an actual show. I'll update the comments on my thoughts of the series, and overall I truly really did like this world. I just wish I was able to watch it on its own separate day. Also, these are the only 3 notes I wrote during this viewing. In retrospect, First Reformed might have been the worst choice I made when making the schedule for this challenge, because I vividly remember how I felt during the film, but I truly can't recall a single thing that actually happened aside from religion. Oh, most definitely religion. This is a really dark and high-key kind of depressing film, and everything filmically backs this up. And that's everything I can truthfully say about First Reformed. Probably a 7.5 for me, but definitely the movie that got hurt the most. Wait, no, the second most by a viewing in this setting. I truly think First Reformed will be like a 9, and a movie I think about so often, and that left a permanent imprint on my mind, which it kind of did off of the filmmaking alone, because that's all that I could really process this late into this challenge. But man, I really do gotta watch this again someday soon on its own day, and I feel like that's probably the case for almost the rest of the movies from this point on, because with a challenge like this, as I said, everything just gets jumbled together. This made me think about where my mental was at by this point of the day. A bit malnourished. It's now pitch dark outside. I never got to see sunlight or leave my room really. Starting to feel a bit sleepy. 5 movies already watched, just straight screen time and visuals, with complex narratives for the past 10 plus hours, and I still have 4 more hours to go. Only note I wrote for this movie is just English bless about 20 minutes into the movie. I might be cooked. This time around, the film wasn't just entrancing because of the intentional and truly beautiful filmmaking like First Reformed. Men is just doing stuff without any cohesiveness, feeling provocative for the sake of being provocative. Mentally, I'm very much in the state where all that matters are the visuals keeping me awake, and any other visual oral filmmaking chops. I can't focus on the plot or characters much, which I imagine didn't matter either way in Men. Clearly, I'd reached my mental max for the day, which I thought would have been perfect for this story, but it ended up angering me so much more. Why am I still awake watching this right now? What's happening on the screen? What is this creature? Why is this creature? Who thought of this movie? Especially as I reached the point of active sleep deprivation, this movie just became an actual fever dream, which low-key kind of sounds cool in theory thinking back, but it ended up just annoying me so much. I'll give this a 4 for now. I really have another movie left, but at least it's Akira, I guess. I've already kind of seen Akira, a little bit of Akira. I really have hope for this one. I fell asleep midway through this movie. I truly feel like I've done myself a disservice both times I've tried to watch Akira. First time around was a late Friday night at college after a couple hours playing basketball, and I ended up knocking out 20 minutes into the movie. And now this. I might have made it like 30 to 45 minutes into the movie. I now see that this is a film that's too detail oriented to watch with anything less than full attention and mental capacity. I'll take the L for this one. I'm gonna rewatch Akira 2 someday later with more respect. No score for now, but I will be watching this one for real sometime soon. I know I went a lot more quicker through the last couple of movies, which probably should have been expected. Looking back on this challenge, for context, I did this towards the end of summer, towards the end of a 2-week break I had between my internship and heading back to school. Before this, I had only watched movies for like 2 or 3 times throughout that entire 2-week break. And believe it or not, after this challenge, I took a week-long detox from film watching and actually went on a cabin trip where I just took a break from technology in general. So I was able to recuperate post-challenge. In retrospect, I did alright, made it through like 6.25 out of the 7 movies. I fully comprehended like 4.5 movies worth of content. Mentally, I should have anticipated the decline from full comprehension to fever dream as I became sleep deprived, but I didn't, so it is what it is. Weirdly, I'm actually not opposed to doing this again. If I came in with more planning ahead of time and, don't put First Reformed or Akira towards the end of my list, I believe I'd be chillin'. Quite frankly, with prep time, I think I can go even further. I probably also should have thrown like a Adam Sandler movie or like a Seth Rogen movie in here too, just to kind of off-balance all of the high art, deep, thought-provoking stuff that I just crammed in towards the end. I did this off a whim. For now, here's a quick little ranking of all the movies I watched, and, I feel like I can truthfully rank. I'll see if I want to do this again. I'll see y'all in the next video.